Hey guys, as I speak, Toyota is introducing two new sports cars. And as you know, Toyota has been on a tear recently. Now, these two new sports cars aren't exactly new, but luckily our man Nathan Adlin, who's now in California, had exclusive access to these cars. So let's start with the first one, the GR Corolla. But this one has a special twist. Nathan, take it away.
Howdy folks, Nathan here, and this is the 2025 Toyota GR Corolla. And there's a big difference, and that is a brand new transmission in addition to the 6-speed manual transmission. And in this video, we're going to talk about that transmission. We're going to talk about a massive torque bump and a bunch of new components inside the vehicle to make it more competent. This is the big deal, and that's because this is the 8-speed direct automatic transmission. I'm not 100% sure about the whole direct thing, but I can tell you this. Automatic transmissions are a huge boon for sales. Think about it this way. When you have a manual transmission vehicle, which this came standard in the past with 6-speed, that vehicle only sold to X amount of people, not a whole lot of them. Think about how many manual transmission vehicles are actually sold. Now that you have this transmission, an 8-speed automatic, you can not only sell more of these, but think about the platform. This 3-cylinder turbo mixed with this and all-wheel drive. There are other vehicles that could definitely have that type of powertrain. Something to think about. So, this transmission is now in this car as an option. Toyota felt like, maybe you need a little bit more torque. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, this vehicle normally put out about 273 pound-feet of torque. But now, this tiny little turbocharged 3-cylinder engine puts out 295 pound-feet of torque and 300 horsepower. More torque, optional 8-speed, still 6-speed manual available. Yeah, massive cojones for a vehicle that doesn't weigh that much more than a regular Corolla. Now think about that when you're looking at other vehicles like, Honda, only front-wheel drive with their Type R. Subaru WRX, continuously variable transmission. Not a whole lot of vehicles really compete with this thing now that it has that transmission and that engine. All right, a couple important notes. Regardless of whether or not you get the 8-speed automatic transmission or the 6-speed manual, you still have a split between the front and rear, which are both, by the way, Torsen limited slip diffs. Now, if you're driving regular, then you have a split that goes 60-40, okay? Regular sporty driving, right? But let's say you're on gravel, 50-50 split. Now let's say you're on the track, 30-70 split. And you can control that with a knob. That simple. Now, what about suspension? That's a great question, because they've actually changed the suspension, and they've done it in a way to prevent squat when taking off, and also making sure that wheel, the inner wheel, when you're going around a corner, has good contact. Yes, big beefy brakes, of course, because once again, big cojones. 235/40 on 18s. All 4 tires. That's right. Now, there are 3 different trim levels available. There's the Core, there's the Premium, and the Premium Plus. And if you get that one, the wheels are sprayed black. Yeah, but there's more. There's also an updated interior, which means 2 8-inch screens, one in front of the driver, and of course one for those of you who want to have fun with their new system, which you can actually say, hey Toyota, and it'll do things. Yes, Android Auto and Apple CarPlay are also part of the package. There are a couple other things you probably are interested in, and that is the fact that this vehicle has launch control, which with an automatic transmission makes sense. Now, there are a couple disclaimers about launch control, including don't use it too many times in a row. That makes sense. And also, you're not supposed to be using it on a public street. Of course you're not. So, keep that in mind. Now, the suspension enhancements are huge. And that's because They go into removing that rear squat, which was one of the things that I noticed the very first time I drove one of these and took off. It sat on its haunches quite a bit. So they've changed a few components around, moving them forward and effectively eliminating some of that. Of course, until we drive it, we won't know for sure. It's important to note that the trailing arm mounting point, which they say is the rotational center of the rear axle, has been raised once again to reduce that squat. Now, in addition, I mentioned the Torsen front and rear limited slip diffs, right? That's standard on all of these, so you don't have to worry about having an open diff with one tire just spinning all the time. Now, speaking of that, let's talk about what this platform is. This is the TNGA-C platform. And this has been used before on other vehicles. However, in this particular case, consider it strengthened, especially for those of you who are really interested in lightweight and strengthening, because once again, with that Premium Plus, you get a neat little goodie, and that is located right, let's see if my finger can point, there. Yep, that, my friends, is a carbon fiber roof. One of the things I love about purpose-built sports cars is the fact that vents and whatnot are actually used, and in this case that's very true. As a matter of fact, many of them have been changed or augmented. Now, one of the reasons why is because up front with the automatic transmission version of this vehicle, you get a transmission cooler. Now, let's say you are seriously aggressive. If you're going to buy this car, you most likely are. You can actually get an upgrade of an additional transmission cooler, which is why the front end now looks like this. That's the main change. The other ducts, which by the way are all functional, are for brakes and of course the engine so it can actually breathe. Now, here's the important part. If you get the core, you can't get it. But if you get the Premium, it's an option, and the Premium Plus, that extra cooler is standard. We're gonna add a friend of mine. Even better than I imagined. Now, of course, this is augmented, but who cares? It's pretty awesome. So, what do you guys think about the new transmission and the new vehicle? Because it is seriously updated. And here's the important part. By the way, Toyota, they opened this place up. This is a big warehouse in the middle of Los Angeles, near Little Tokyo. Curious mix. That vehicle belongs right here. This is actually probably the right place for it, except for people would yell about the fact that it's not electric. I bet you're wondering about price. Yeah, don't know. Toyota hasn't released that yet. However, this vehicle is expected in dealerships this winter, so stay tuned.
For all of you Toyota fans, you'll know that the GR86 once upon a time came as a Hakone edition. Now we have another version of that, and once again, Nathan was there, so tell us all about it, my man.
Imagine driving a vehicle that has 228 horsepower, 184 pound-feet of torque, automatic and manual transmission options, rear drive, and enough sport to make a lot of kids in Los Angeles, which is, by the way, where we are, really jealous. As a matter of fact, a lot of them will throw on fatter wheels and try to make it drift. But what if you wanted a little bit more class, a little bit more style? What if you wanted a vehicle that actually had all those things baked into one as a package? Well, look no further, because that's what this is. Here's the cool part. Well, it's more classier now, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, let's walk around a little bit. But before we do, Lord have mercy, look at these seats. Oh, yes. Leather lined. That, I believe, is Alcantara. We even have it up here, which is unnecessary, but awesome. Now, yeah. Let's see if my big booty fits in here. Oh, indeed, I do. And here's the thing about this vehicle, right? The Toyota Supra is a little uncomfortable for me, but this thing, it's a lot more comfortable. You have to fall down in order to get in here, though. Look at that, heated seat controls. Beautiful steering wheel. Can you see this. It's the same color as this. Yeah, classy. And also, something I really like, look what they did with the door panel. That is super cool. Yes. Very nice. Yep. They actually managed to make this thing far prettier, but the most important part is the color. Guys, this Toyota GR86 is bathed in ridge green. Take that in for a minute. Now, if you don't like green, if you're not a certain type of person who loves the color green, this video is not for you. That's because this is a special edition. And by the way, get a load of these wheels. Bronze. And look, it's just gorgeous the way they have that lined up together. These are 215 40R18s, Michelin Pilot Sports, wrapped around beautiful bronze wheels. And yeah, you can clearly see upgraded Brembo brakes, front and rear. This is close to what I consider British racing green, but they don't call it that. Ridge is their own terminology, and I kind of get that. You don't want to confuse people with calling it a British racing green Toyota, I guess. But here's the other thing. This is known as the Hakone edition. Many, many years ago, Roman and I actually went to a track in Nevada to drive the very first GR Corolla. And as many of you know, the names have changed a little bit, but the soul is essentially the same, which is, of course, the Subaru horizontally opposed 4-cylinder engine. Now, what has changed over time? Yeah, there's been some horsepower bumps. There's definitely been some suspension upgrades. And we've had some novel front and rear upgrades as well to make it look a little bit different. However, it's still basically the same car, which means this is a relatively tail-happy sport vehicle that has a tiny back seat and a tiny trunk, but it's far more utilitarian than, say, oh, I don't know, a Toyota Supra. Now, I know a lot of you guys are thinking, well, why does he keep banging on about the Toyota Supra? It's because it's a really expensive car. It's really good, don't get me wrong. But if you're turning around a corner and you're really wanting to get the tail out and have a good time and strain to get the horsepower and the torque to do exactly what it needs to do to squirt you out of that corner, these are more fun. Yes, Supra's faster, 4-cylinder faster. They're both way faster. Awesome manual transmission option as well. But I still think these are more fun. What do you guys think? Pricing for the 2025 Toyota GR86 Hakone Edition is not available yet, but it will be more expensive than a regular one, that's for sure. You know what else is for sure? It's coming this October, according to Toyota. Thank you guys for joining me for the Fast Lane Car. This is Nathan sweating it out in Los Angeles.